Jamaica has recorded an additional COVID-19 fatality, pushing the tally to 1,034. The deceased is a 55-year-old man from St. Elizabeth. Meanwhile, there were 44 new cases with ages ranging from 4 years old to 83 years old, pushing the total to 49,712, with 19,517 being active. Of the new cases, 31 are women and 13 are men. St. Catherine dominates the new cases with 12 being recorded, followed by Kingston and St. Andrew with 9, and then Clarendon with 6. In the meantime, there were 173 more recoveries, increasing the total to 28,793. The Ministry of Health and Wellness vaccination blitz sites continue to administer the second doses of the COVID-19 vaccine. Our news team visited the Montego Bay Convention site on Saturday. Here is Javon Thomas with more on this story.
Tourism Minister Edmund Bartlett says that workers under 50 in the tourism sector have been responding well to the vaccination program, especially in Western Jamaica. He made the announcement on Saturday at the Convention Center in Montego Bay.
Well, the tourism sector has responded positively, as you know, to the whole vaccination process. The difficulty on this particular round is that the age limit of 50 and over does present a small problem in that most of the tourism workers are under 50. But they have been coming out, and that's good. We know that the next round will see a completion, I believe, of most of those who have been done already. I want to congratulate the Minister and the Ministry of Health for continuing to focus on getting the vulnerable the double vaccination that will give the safety and the coverage that is required to protect us from further infections and indeed the spread. The Ministry and Minister and the NIF have been doing yeoman's work in trying to get more vaccination and more vaccines, in fact, to enable the vaccination levels to rise. And we are in full support of that effort, and we have anticipation of the Johnson & Johnson coming as of August. That will also be a game changer in that a single dose will cover the level of immunity that is required at this time to help us to manage this process even better.
Minister Bartlett also made an appeal to those that are hesitant to get vaccinated.
There is a level of hesitancy, but there is a turnaround because as we grow the industry, we're recognizing now that our guests that are coming are double vaccinated, and that if we aren't vaccinated as well, it will present an issue in terms of this sense of confidence that they will have in our destination. So our workers know also that their risk level, although it's lowered because the guests are vaccinated, is very, very much there. And they can't afford to get sick, because if they do, they will be losing their income, and that will be a problem for their families. The appeal has to be for all the workers to forget the arguments of the naysayers, forget the conspiracy theories that abound. The science is in favor of vaccination, and we're still managing by science. And the statistics also show that people who have been fully vaccinated are less likely to contract the virus and indeed to transmit the virus. So I appeal again, and a very strong appeal I make, especially to the younger tourism workers, to consider getting the vaccination. Forget the arguments that are to the contrary. It's not substantial, it's not substantiated even. And therefore, I think that it is only prudent that in order to save our own selves and to enable a quick recovery, not just of tourism, but of the economy of Jamaica, and the recover of the economic well-being of yourselves and your families, that you know come and do the vaccination and do it as quickly as availability permits.
One hotel worker, Byron Bernard, said that getting vaccinated is very important to both workers and guests.
I had my 2 doses of the AstraZeneca vaccine, I took one the first time, and now I came back and had the other dose. So that's about it as far as my vaccination is concerned. It is very important, because one of the factors about it is that you are not only working amongst yourselves, your fellow workers, but the guests, they feel more comfortable when they know that you are vaccinated. And it is very important that each and every worker in the industry get themselves vaccinated so that you can benefit more and be more comfortable working with the guests. Well, one of the negativity about people is that, you have to sort of help sensitizing them as far as the importance of the vaccination is concerned. Because some people, they don't really act on their own. They listen to what other people have to say. And some people are very negative. They entertain this negative thought with them, share with other people. And as you know, not everybody is totally up to the standard where they see everything for themselves and make their own decision. So they get, led by other people and sometimes become very hesitant in vaccinating.
I'm Javon Thomas, reporting for Mello TV News.
Thanks, Javon. In other news, Prime Minister Andrew Holness yesterday declared the community of Norwood in St. James as a zone of special operation, ZOSO.
As of today, I, as Prime Minister in Council, that is to say, as Chairman of the National Security Council, acting on the advice of the security forces, have officially declared a zone of special security and community development operations under the Law Reform Zones of Special Operations, Special Security and Community Development Measures Act 2017. The Law Reform Zones of Special Operations, Special Security and Community Development Measures, Norwood Community in the Parish of St. James Zone, Order 2021, has been gazetted, and I hold up the gazette for all to see. This law, under which the zones are declared, was created for upholding and preserving the rule of law, public order, citizen security, and public safety within certain geographically defined areas of Jamaica. The law allows for a coherent strategy utilizing interministerial and interagency coordination towards social transformation with the aim that the people gain confidence in the security forces and trust the justice system so that a new culture of peace can emerge in a self-sustaining and permanent way. Ultimately, residents will own the peace, own the changes, and take responsibility for their transformed community.
Speaking at the virtual press conference, the Prime Minister lamented about the levels of crime and violence being experienced in an area of approximately 1 square kilometer with about 11,800 residents.
Norwood community, for the new zone of special operations, this is an area of approximately 1 square kilometer. It has about 11,800 residents. We have estimated that approximately 1,600 of those are males between 14 and 29. There are about 5,200 building structures in that community. The community is generally considered to have emerged in an unplanned way. It has issues such as lack of water, but the housing structures are generally of good stock and construction of concrete and it houses workers mainly in the tourism sector. But you can see that in an area of approximately 1 square kilometer.
Force Executive Officer in the Jamaica Defense Force, Commodore Antoinette Weymouth Gorman, outlined the boundaries of the Norwood Zoso.
And the description of the boundaries are as follows. To the north, beginning at the intersection of Norwood Highway and Norwood Boulevard, the boundary extends in an easterly direction along Norwood Highway to the intersection of Morning Glory Crescent. To the east, the boundary extends southerly along Morning Glory Crescent and then onto Pimento Drive to the intersection with the 5th Avenue, then southerly along an imaginary line for approximately 0.7 kilometer, denoted by a water feature in the area. To the south, continuing from the point in the vicinity of the water feature, the boundary extends westerly for approximately 0.5 kilometer to the One-Way Tabernacle Early Childhood Institution, then northerly for approximately 0.03 kilometer onto Robert Reed Drive. It then continues north along Charles Drive for approximately 0.3 kilometer and continues in a northwesterly direction along an unnamed road for approximately 0.4 kilometer to the Hendon Main Road. The boundary then continues westerly along the roadway for approximately 0.2 kilometer. And finally, to the west, it extends in another direction along the Hendon Norwood Main Road and then onto Norwood Main Road or Top Road, and continuing north onto the Norwood Highway to the start point at the intersection of Norwood Highway and Norwood Boulevard. We want to once again reassure citizens that all members of the JDF and the JCF who will be working in the zone of special operations have been appropriately trained, giving due regard to the protection of basic human rights, as well as the unique requirements for the ZOZO legislation. We also urge persons to acquaint themselves with these regulations and requirements in order to easily and conveniently transit in the area as they go about their lawful business.
And National Security Minister Dr. Horace Chang outlined the objectives of the ZOSO.
It's a peculiar community because, I know well, many of our very successful young people are from the area. But on the other hand, we have some of the leadership of the criminal network emerging from this area. And the objective is to get in there and control their activity and ensure that the population can move around not only in order, but safely. That is the critical issue of dealing with. The area lends itself, of course, is an area central to a very wide informal area, to the kind of activity that the zones of special operation is planned for and is designed to restore the kind of not only public order, but lay the foundation for long-term development. Indeed, we noticed that in our planning, and has been articulated already and announced, on the very border of this, to the east is where we look forward to establish the Newmont Western facility for the police force as a central point of operation to ensure we can have continuous and sustainable, effective policing. Yet on the just north of it side, the plan is to establish one of our new STEM schools because that area has a high number of successful young members of the population who are interested in pursuing further education. The zones of special operation in this area is welcome, and I'm confident we'll bring about the kind of restoration of public order and continue the process of development that is required to ensure transformative effect in the area.
Commissioner of Police Major General Anthony Anderson, for his part, pointed out the main source of funding for gangs.
The main sources of funding for these gangs are from lottery scamming, contract killings, extortion, and robberies. They also receive funds from members who have migrated, and in some sections of the community, the gang members have the support of their family and other citizens. This support, which sometimes arises from fear, and continued funding significantly contributes to the viability of these gangs. We believe we can loosen the grip of the gangs on this community through policing activities which target the gangs, their resources, and their allies while employing a clear hold build strategy to create this space for long-term developmental strategies. We police these communities every day, and we are well aware that there are men, women, and children who desperately need for us to build strong, legitimate social structures that will keep the gangs and gangsters out of their neighborhoods. We believe that this rampant violence in the community requires a sustained intervention, not only to disrupt the current gang activities and violent crimes, but to create a safer space for various government agencies and civil society to employ measures geared towards social development. As such, in consultation with the Chief of Defense Staff, we requested a zone of special operation be declared in the Norwood community. As has been demonstrated through previous and current zones, this enhanced security measure has been very effective in not just reducing violent crimes, but also in establishing long-lasting peace and stability.
Zozo has been in place in the Mount Salem Police Division in St. James since September 1, 2017. Other zones of special operations are also in Denham Town, West Kingston, as well as Greenwich Town and August Town in St. Andrew. In related news, leader of the opposition and president of the People's National Party, Mark Golding, toured sections of St. James with other party executives and local representatives of the parish in Mount Salem, which is under a zone of special operation. Here is Colleen May with more on this story.
On his visit to areas in Mount Salem, St. James, where a zone of special operations Zozo has been declared, leader of the opposition and president of the People's National Party, Mark Golding, pointed out that residents are pleased to have the security forces in the area.
We're visiting Mount Salem today. As you know, that's been under a Zozo continuously since 2017. And in Parliament on Tuesday, the National Security Minister brought motions to renew and extend the 4 existing Zozos. And I called for the rollout of more Zozos in hotspot areas where there's significant murders and shootings on a daily basis. And his answer to me was that he doesn't want to dilute the Zozo and the resources aren't there to do it the way they would like. So I don't know how that can be a justification for not bringing enhanced security to the areas that need it. Anyway, I decided let's visit Mount Salem today and just hear from the residents how it's going. Now, there have been 6 murders, I am told, in Mount Salem from September 1 last year in the Zozo community. So it is not a perfect solution, and there are still big problems. But for the most part, the residents are glad to see the security forces more often. They have some concerns, however. They think that there should be greater rotation of the police in particular because they get too familiar with the boys and girls in the community, and that affects the way in which the police operate. Their objectivity and the persons who they're prepared to deal with and not deal with, and how they enforce the law and so on. And I think that's stands to reason, that police, who are generally youngish individuals, being stationed in one place, in one community for extended periods of time, will develop all sorts of relationships on the ground. So for more frequent rotation would be a good idea.
However, the Zozo has its setbacks, such as the need for greater rotation of the officers. Mr. Golding also explained that some residents had issues with the stationing of the officers.
The other concern is the fact that, for the most part, the security forces tend to be stationed at the entrances to the lanes. But a lot of what happens in terms of the shootings and murders takes place down inside the lanes towards the back, where there are frequently places where different lanes converge at the back, and therefore easy access and easy departure for the nefarious wrongdoers. And so the whole question of how the police and soldiers operate and are stationed and how they move around and so on, those operational issues are of some concern to the residents. So overall, they're happy for the enhanced presence. And that stands to reason because obviously these are volatile areas which are not really under any kind of control. However, we have seen some evidence of social improvements in sort of some walls have been built and so on. We're told birth certificates have been provided and so on. There's a report on that each time they're renewed. But in terms of real social change and behavioral change, sustain programs to try and turn the mindset of some of these youngsters who are too intent on committing violent crimes, the feeling is that that is not really happening in the way it should. And so in terms of a sustained solution, that's not really being brought to the ground here.
The opposition leader further outlined his hope for the communities within Mount Salem.
We met the mothers and grandmothers and fathers of a number of young men who have been murdered. And it's just, the tragic story of modern Jamaica in the 21st century, where on a daily basis young men lose their lives. Quite often, they are not mixed up in any kind of gangster behavior or anything, but they just happen to live in a community where there is conflict with maybe a neighboring community, and the way in which the perpetrators of violence behave now, if you come from that community, as far as they're concerned, you're fair game to be taken out, whether you're involved in anything or not. And this is a problem that we have to face. I think we have to face it not only through effective law enforcement, but we have to have a way of reaching out to the young men who are involved in this kind of thing and trying to change their mentality, reach them in a way that they can see that there's another path forward in life. Obviously those who have committed wrongs and will have to be held accountable, but there are many of them who perhaps haven't yet done that, but might one day become another statistic if we don't get to them and really try and re-engineer their entire outlook on life to one of being a productive citizen or caring person. I would like to see enhanced security measures and greater social investment. Now, if you look at the situation there in terms of the infrastructure, there's a lot of things like sewage, raw sewage that runs on the roads because the sewage system has not been maintained adequately and so on. Those properties are owned by the parish council in large measure, but the parish council has neglected them for decades. So, there is a need for social investment in these communities to create a decent living space for people so that they can live their lives with dignity and be proud of their community.
Reporting for Mello TV News, I'm Colleen May.
Thanks, Colleen. As the evidence of growing violence continues to affect the lives of residents across sections of St. James, one family in the Salt Spring Division will forever be changed as the breadwinner was recently shot dead, while the children were allegedly saved by a basket filled with clothes, stopping bullets from hitting them. The mother of the children, Felicia Nicholson, explained what happened.
On the 31st of May, when I go up the road for something from somebody, while I was up there, I hear some shot. And then I couldn't come down. So I go in one shop up the road. And while me in a shop, I hear my two little cousins them outside a ball. And then I tell the man to let me out. And I go attend to them. But while I out there, I never feel. After I shot them and everything, I come down. And when I come down, my son tell me, say, "Fishy." So I say, "What me fishy for?" And then I hear them start scream. And I come. See. Daniel. Oh, okay.
Daniel is... Where did you find the babies?
When I come there, I come, because when I hear my voice, then come out. Yeah. They are doing counseling for me and the kids, and they advise not to stay up here.
Right.
Opposition leader Mark Golding, in touring the area, also explained that despite zones of special operations in sections of the parish, killings continue.
There were 3 children in the room when the incident took place, when the shooting took place, and 2 of them were under the bed. And it seems that bullets were prevented from reaching them by the baskets full of clothes, because you can see their bullet holes in the baskets, and another one was standing right there. But her boyfriend Daniel was killed. Yeah. And you know, there's just this ongoing violence. You know, I mean, we're not in a Zozo community here, right?
No.
But the strategy of having small little areas which have security and others that don't just isn't working. And even in the areas which have Zozos, there's still killings going on in Mount Salem. I mean, murders in St. James are up substantially this year. So the situation is out of control. And I mean, I'm from the corporate area, and we're seeing it there as well. Very, very bad situation. The government doesn't have it under control at all. I'm not saying there's any easy solution to it, but whatever they're doing now isn't working. And it hasn't been working for the last few years. It's just so sad that people, innocent people, get killed. You know, because the way the violence is running now, the perpetrators are quite willing to kill persons who have nothing to do with the issues at hand if they're associated just by geographical location with the people who they're fighting against. So it's a recipe for innocents being slaughtered.
Meanwhile, another resident of Salt Spring, Evan Allen, explained that the community is also experiencing a lack of water.
We cannot get no water. I am very diabetic. Every minute I have to go in bathroom. I have to crepe drum to flush bathroom. Yeah? What a condition we live in. Over here now from last year, we can't get no water. The water on the road there is, what we do? Me at 67 had a year old. We can't go river for water, sir.
Councillor Sylvan Reid of the Salt Spring Division interjected with claims that this water issue is allegedly intentional.
I believe there is something fishy going on about this water for this area. It's over here now, the people can't get any water. And I believe, and I want to go on record, I don't care. I believe they are sabotaging this area because I personally take up the phone and call the St. James Municipal Corporation for them to help the people here, and no water come to the people. And if you go over on the right, which is northwest, which is just a road that part the two constituency, they always have water. If you go to Flower Hill, where it's their love area, there is always water. So it can't be a pump issue. It must be something funny going on. And it's unbearable for the people. They can't get water to drink, to wash, to do nothing. When I was there, when they didn't throw me out, I could chuck water here constantly and give the people. And since they throw me out, no water is here for the people, not even to drink. They have to be paying, I think, $500 a jump for water. How can you sustain that in a crisis like this? It is unbearable and it has to stop. And if they don't stop that and solve this problem in the next 2 or so weeks, the people is going to speak louder than they're speaking now. I rest my case.
Mr. Golding, for his part, said that this and other issues will happen when a division is left without proper representation.
I personally wrote to the Prime Minister to ask him to intervene and not have the 2 councillors who had not attended meetings because of health issues. And that is why I hadn't been going during the COVID crisis. And the majority on the council used that majority to throw them off. So the people are not now represented by somebody who's sitting at the table in council. And this is the kind of thing that happens as a result. The money that is allocated to the division is not being spent because the councillor is not there and cannot have access to it. And the people are suffering.
Right.
Poor governance. And I really wish that this could be remedied and remedied soon. They need their councillor and they need their water.
We need back the councillor.
Well,
we need him. We need Mr. Reid. We want back Mr. Reid.
A 48-hour curfew has been imposed in sections of August Town in St. Andrew. The curfew began at 2 p.m. on Sunday, June 20, and will remain in effect until 2 p.m. on Tuesday, June 22. The boundaries of the curfew are north from the intersection of Mona Road and Hermitage Road. The boundary runs in an easterly direction along Hermitage Road to its intersection with University Road and then continues in an easterly direction to its intersection with the Hope River. East, continuing from the point along the Hope River, the boundary extends in a southeasterly direction along the Hope River to its intersection with River Bottom Road in the vicinity of Bedwood Gardens. South, from the intersection of Bedwood Crescent and August Town Road, the boundary extends southwesterly along August Town Road for approximately 280 meters, and then westerly for approximately 1.7 kilometers along the foot of the Long Mountain Range to the start point at the intersection of Goldsmith Villa Road and Princess Alice Way. West, Goldsmith Villa Road and Princess Alice Way to the Goldsmith Villa Seventh-day Adventist Church, and then southeasterly for approximately 190 meters. During the hours of the curfew, all persons within the boundaries of the curfew are required to remain within their premises unless otherwise authorized in writing by the ground commander. And Police Commissioner Major General Anthony Anderson says that 8 gang members have been arrested along with 9 firearms seized in the last month in central Kingston.
Well, as I say, in central Kingston over the past month, we arrested 8 gang members. We have some of the gang leaders in custody, but we also recovered 9 firearms, including a rifle, in that space over the last few weeks, and 126 rounds of ammunition in that space. The similar work is going on in Kingston West. We've rolled out a number of deployments and strategies, and so we should see what we've seen start to trend down again. Usually the cause of the upsurge, it can be a fight over turf. It could be over drugs, or somebody went to buy guns and didn't get their guns. We have one incident where a person who had killed another one's father 21 years ago, when he came out of prison, he was killed by that person, by the son. The family of the person killed, of the person who came out of prison, killed his brother. He responded by shooting 4 people, and this happens within a flash. So these hot spots and these, we call it flashpoints, as soon as they start, we have to do 2 things, and our intelligence is getting better at that, is find out why it's happening, and then try to intervene as quickly as possible. But some of them, I've seen them where the incident and reprisal are 20 minutes apart. One of the unfortunate things about these things, if you think about how small some of these areas are relatively, these are people who know each other.
Major General Anderson further pointed to 2 major strategies that the police will be improving on to get the flare-up of violence in the area under control.
As I think it's become evident that our intelligence network is relatively strong, it's growing, and we use, of course, all sources of intelligence, not only human, but all the technologies involved in that process. And that is why rapidly we follow up on persons who have done crimes. And that's why we were able to arrest one of our Hanover's most wanted in Kingston through that process. So it's getting better. Unfortunately, before we can put somebody in jail, they have to do it first. We'd prefer if they didn't do it at all. And so our deployments are done in a way to be at the places where it's most likely to happen. But then, of course, we're in a process of building our numbers, building our capability. These vehicles will make a difference to it. And so, we're building a force that's capable and can deliver what Jamaica needs.
Meanwhile, on a tour of central Kingston recently, National Security Minister Dr. Horace Chang outlined the short and long-term strategies to get crime under control in central and western Kingston.
To stop the killing, stabilize it. Then we have to examine how we can separate the non-violent people from the violent and stabilize the station in the long term. And we'll be taking some action. We'll talk later on how to engage some of our young people in something positive and the whole community to get back on one. We have more officers around, yes, and more activity, not just by officers and presence. But I said, following up that, we have a lot more activity to engage the young people in the area in something positive and to try and pull the community back into a unit. All these people live together. They say they go to school together, they work together, they play together, and now they're killing each other. Doesn't make sense.
Member of Parliament for Central Kingston, Donovan Williams, in responding to the issue, had this to say.
Well, as you are aware, we have had some flare-ups in Central Kingston, and an ongoing situation. We have had, killings, murders, and so it has reached a stage where the relevant authorities, the Commission and the Minister of National Security, decided to come on the ground and get a first-hand view and get some knowledge of what is really happening here.
And those are some of the stories making news. We will return with other news that residents of Greenwood on the border of St. James and Trelawney are again calling on the relevant authorities to step in and find a solution to the ongoing buildup of stagnant water in the area. But first, let's take a break and then join Christopher Scott with sports.